What's good, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. It's another episode of your favorite Little Cup series, Wine Swirlix, here on the Soul Blaze YouTube channel. I'm your host, Soul Blaze. Today, we're going to talk about the Boki monkeys, the hot and cold poopy boys, the never speaked about, the never spotlight shown on, the bridesmaids, Darumakas, baby. They are freaking exciting, and I love talking about Darumaka. I love this Pokemon, and let's introduce you to Darumakas. But before we get into that, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. You get me in your feed. You show me that you like the video. Pause the video right now. It takes 2 seconds. I would really appreciate that. Now, before we get into it, let's get into it. Never mind. I'm kidding. We're getting into it. Darumaka, baby. Single typing fire. You're thinking, okay, Stealth Rock, 25%. Okay, I see your point. I see your point. But look at that attack stat though! Oh my god, 90 attack, baby! Stay away from using special moves on this thing. I know I've listed special moves here. Please don't use special moves on this thing unless it's absolutely must. Like we're talking if there's an Onyx and you need Grass Knot, like something like that. That's the only case I'll allow you to use special moves on this thing, because this thing's 90 attack is gonna out-differentiate that special attack way more often than a super effective hit from the special side is gonna do for you. So please use the physical move. I've tried to exemplify it for you here. I've tried to extend the move list as much as I can on the physical side for you guys to get inspiration for what to use here. Please mix and match of moves from the physical side that you would like to use on this thing, and stay away from special moves unless you plan to sauce your opponent, or it's like your only option of hitting something that's incredibly physically defensive and probably a rock type for decent amount of damage. Like, you would actually rather superpower than Grass Knot most rock types. I'm just letting you know right now. So please focus on your physical moveset. That goes for your ability as well with Hustle. Boosting only physical moves. It does not boost special, so it doesn't take away their accuracy either. But the damage you get from Hustle is insane! Like, it's so high! 90 base attack, Hustle boosted, stab, you can add Tear on top of that, you slap a Choice Band on it, nothing lives! Nothing lives! Like, defensive Slowpoke gets like 2-shot after rocks with this thing. It's incredible. It's absolutely insane. So please use your physical moves. And you have to be a little wary about how Hustle works. We'll get more into when to use Hustle and stuff like that when we get to the sets. So I'll spare myself from talking about Hustle a little bit here. But Hustle is amazing, guys. Okay? Hustle, there's high risk, high reward. I get the accuracy drop and stuff like that. But we'll get back into it. Just Hustle is amazing. That's all you need to know. On the status pool side, we still have very useful stuff you can do. Will-O-Wisp is amazing for making Darumaka more physically bulky. You can use that with stuff like Eviolite to get even more bulk. And you can Encore to trap something into not being able to threaten you or hit you for that much. You know, there's a lot of stuff that you can do. You have Roar to phase things out. You have Protect to stall stuff like Manual Rain or Ice or Sand, or no, Snow or Sand if you want to do stuff like that. You're decent, like your speed isn't amazing. That's why Scarf is the best item on this thing, is because it has the power through Hustle, through its Flare Blitz, 90 attacks, stab, super effective often, a really crazy good move pool on the physical side. So you don't need to worry that much about the damage. So you kind of need to make up for the speed. And that's why Scarf is the considerable best item on, and that's why I've listed Scarf as the first item you should use on this thing, okay? So definitely, you can run Band and really wall break. Like, Scarf is like the most consistent wall breaking one. Choice Band you do for the really hard ones that if your team struggles versus Slowpoke, for example, and you don't really have a good matchup versus a tank like that, like a Marini or Slowpoke, stuff like that. Choice Band can help you out of that. Even just Choice Band U-turn does insane amounts of damage if you Hustle boost it. And you could also, I've not listed any specific super saucy Terra types on this, but feel free to experiment as well. Terra Bug U-turn Hustle boosted. Ooh, that's gonna do insane amounts of damage. You can also Terra away from being weak to rocks. but obviously the most consistent one is going to be Terrafire, which you will see once we get to the sets, because the damage is outrageous if you choose this thing as a Terra Captain. It's Jesus. Like, I in hindsight, I should have thrown in some calcs for this, but this is just crazy. Yeah. So you got Sunny Day. You can set up the sun for yourself too and boost fire type moves even further while getting suddenly fully accessible solar beams for, you know, that one Onyx. Or you could just do Flare Blitz in the sun, Terra, Choice, no, not Choice Band, but you could slap like Life Orb on it with that. Ooh! The damage is so ridiculously high, and like the peak is so high, so please consider getting a little bit experimental when figuring out movesets for this. You have Yawn to make stuff not stay in on like to swap things out and in on rocks. You have Toxic to predict Slowpoke coming in if you want to run a more conservative, maybe a little bit more consistent version of Darumaka. You can just Toxic the Slowpoke on the switch in and it's dealt with at some point in the game, unless they have like a Heal Builder, you know. You could do berry stuff. You could use Enduro. You can use Substitute to use berries, which is also why I've listed like Salac Berry there. You'll see, because in combination with Belly Drum, we haven't even talked about Belly Drum on this thing. Belly Drum Hustle with the freaking Fire Terra. Nothing lives, man. Nothing lives. You just gotta worry about everything else except for damage on this thing. It's crazy. You got Workup, which could also kind of work. I wouldn't really use Workup special moves, but Workup can work in terms of the physical, and bumping the physical even more. Focus Energy if you're worried about something setting Iron Defense on you, or getting past a Mudbray with stuff like Stamina Boost. You could definitely do that as well. The Saucy Snatch I've also added on there. If you successfully use Snatch on this thing, I will literally make you the president of America, okay? So just keep that in mind. It is there. It is there. You can also do stuff like Resto Chesto and stuff like that, but obviously I'm not listed that. It's a little bit more niche. I think you're gonna sticking to clicking Flare Blitz most times. And just using your 90, like if you have a base attack stat like this, use it, man. Click as many physical moves as you can. Get that damage out there, because that's where this mon gets its value. That's where you go to town. That's where it shops, man. That's where it gets its rewards. So you have to make sure to do, like if you draft something with defense, make sure that it tanks physical moves. If you draft something with high attack, make sure it does damage on the physical side, because that's where you will reap the most benefits. I just got to put you guys onto this, man. So that's Darumaka. Let's go over to some sets for Darumaka, and we got some saucy sets here for you. On the top, I'm going to list the more standard stuff. On the bottom, that's where the sauce is. That's where the skill difference is. That's where the high brain power, high execution, high reward set lies. So on your top left, obviously, the most consistent set for this thing is Scarf. Because even if it's a Fire Terra Captain or not, this thing with Scarf Flare Blitz, if you 15 speed Scarf, you outspeed everything that's 14 Scarf and below, obviously, and you also outspeed the entire unboosted metagame, which is really crazy. So you can knock off your opponent's Scarf, leave Darumaka last, come in and just Flare Blitz until the cows come home. It's crazy, man. In terms of how you want to spread the EVs, there's two different solutions for that. One is to do max speed with Jolly or Adamant. You want to probably go Jolly the most amount of times on any set like this, just because you want to ensure that Darumaka outspeeds. Because if Darumaka does not outspeed, it tanks like a Hydro Pump or a Scald or an Earth Power, Earthquake, Rock Slide. Like, Fire has a lot of weaknesses, and you're already probably taking 25% for Stealth Rocks, so make sure Darumaka goes first, man. Adamant is the luxury one. I've listed Adamant. If you can't afford to go Adamant, amazing, perfect. Your life is literally, you're living in Beverly Hills, and you have a contract with Disney and stuff like that. But, man, you're a millionaire if you can use Adamant. It's just luxury, but most of the time you're going to want to run Jolly, okay? So make sure Darumaka is outspeeding your opponent, which is why Sticky Web with this thing would be amazing, for example. Stuff like that. And doubles, I'm talking Tailwind would be amazing. Stuff like that. Redirection as well, just to make sure it hits stuff. Amazing, amazing, amazing. So Choice Band, Choice Scarf, Jolly, Adamant. Probably want to go Jolly. And in terms of the way you want to use Hustle and Inner Focus too, run Hustle for the most time. and then use Inner Focus as like an outplay potential thing. So if Darumaka faces potential intimidators, or it's at risk of getting flinched from something, that means you haven't done your job in making sure that Darumaka is faster, aside from Fake Out. Because Fake Out is priority, Darumaka can't do anything about that. Maybe you can slap Protect on it for that, and still run Hustle, you know what I'm saying? Like, Inner Focus, don't... If you face Intimidate, or you're pretty sure Darumaka's at risk of getting flinched, run Inner Focus. All the other times, run Hustle, man. If you miss your move and lose your game, it happens. Like, you can... That's where you say, hacks to GG, easy, skill diff, stuff like that. Obviously, be respectful towards your opponents. But that's obviously where the sauce of this thing lies. Its heart lies in Hustle. So you have to utilize Hustle to the most extent you can. Use it with stuff like Gravity to increase Hustle's accuracy to max. Use it with stuff like Blunder Policy, and you can have more room for missing. Obviously, or just outside of the standard, which will be risk the 80% roll, man. It's so in your favor. Like, I know we can troll about Hustle all day we want. Hustle is in game, it seems like it has lower than 50% accuracy. Trust me, I get you. But Hustle, 80% accuracy, that's gonna be in your favor. That Flare Blitz is gonna two-shot the tank that you're talking about most of the times. So just, that's like, it's either Hustle or nothing a lot of the time. So just make sure you're hustling up and you're hustling, grustling every day, and then just run Inner Focus for that. You know, those few times that it matters versus intimidators and stuff like that that can shut Darumaka down, make it not move, basically. On the right one, I've listed the kind of either a fast spread that utilizes the 15 speed, or you can run a bulky one that doesn't really care about speed that much, but it can tank a lot more hits because you have that defense and special defense at an even number, so that multiplies much better with Eviolite. You're probably going to want to use the fast one a lot more, and obviously if you're not running speed at all on this, run Adamant always. So you have some options there with the Eviolite one, because Darumaka loves an Eviolite, don't get me wrong, but it's just Choice Scarf is the most consistent way of getting it to get off its hustle damage before it gets killed itself. It's a very glass cannon kind of concept with this thing, okay? So just keep that in mind. You can also, of course, run Heavy Duty Boots if you're scared about rocks and you have used your Eviolites. You can use Resist Berry to outplay your opponent. You can use Berry Juice if you are allowed to do that in the format. If not, you can also settle for Oran Berry. This does not get recycled though, so you just gotta be careful when Oran Berry doesn't heal that much, because this thing's HP stat is quite high too. So it can take Flare Blitz recoils day in and day out. So it can't run Life Orb 19, but the fact that it has such a high HP stat makes it be able to tank Stealth Rock and stuff like Flare Blitz recoil and still be okay for the most part, or more so than other fire types, just so you guys know that. Also, in the terms of the move select, you want to make sure that, for example, with the Salak Belly Drum Sweeper here, that's going to be focused around setting up Substitute until you proc your Salak Berry, and that's where you get the same speed as you would with Scarf, but you have move select. You can switch up your moves, but it is a little bit more risky just because you have to try and get off a Belly Drum and Substitute, which is going to tank a lot of your health. Salak Berry only procs at 25% health or less, which means that you have to be really careful about managing this thing's HP stat. But if you get to that peak, +1 speed, max attack with Hustle, maybe with Terra 2 to gain resistances for the HP reduction from sub Belly Drum hits, Stealth Rock, stuff like that, to make this set a little bit more consistent. But Terrifier also, that's why I haven't listed Flare Blitz on that set, just because you can't afford to take recoil on top of sub taking 25 and Belly Drum taking 50. Like, and you don't need it if you're +6. If you're +6, Fire Punch is gonna be more reliable than Flare Blitz. Okay, that's like one of the only instances where it's gonna be more reliable. You choose Fire Punch over Flare Blitz in the circumstances where you're like insane, like +6, just because you can't afford to take the recoil from Flare Blitz. They have the same accuracy, so they get affected by Hustle the same way. You could also run in Inner Focus, I guess, on that set, but you have to calculate if +6 is enough. But Hustle, if you just hit your 100% accurate or 80% accurate moves, I believe, with this thing, it just is insane with Belly Drum too. Catches your opponent off guard, completely wave turns the game in your favor. High risk, high reward. If you manage to pull this off, which is why I'm giving the set to you, in case you're in a position to perform it, then please do it. It works amazing if you can pull it off. There's just a lot of if factors. If you don't want to risk Belly Drum, you could also just sub-focus punch and then go like another move instead of break. You could do Rock Slide, you could do Zen Headbutt, you could do Facade, stuff like that. So, and they can't even like, if you come in on top, if you predict Toxic Spikes, you can bring Facade on this. And you can just go to town because it does so much damage. Terra Normal Facade if you're status, and you can get burned if you're Terra Normal as well. And Facade ignores that, which is kind of a weird interaction, but you can go to town! You can go to town. That's a really saucy set. So probably out of the most times, you're going to go the top 2, and then the bottom 2, you're going to go in very specific situations that you want Darumaka to take the spotlight and shine, baby. The last set I just nicknamed Sauce, man. It's just freestyle. You can freestyle with this thing. Blunder Policy, run more inaccurate moves with more power, such like, or not even necessarily more power, but you can run more inaccurate moves like Hammer Arm over Superpower, just to make sure it misses more often, so you get off Blunder Policy. You have this insane speed advantage, which means that you're gonna get off Flare Blitz and stuff like that a lot more. What I should have done on that set is take away U-Turn, because you probably just want, once you have that +2 speed from Blunder Policy, if you do that, you're gonna want to stay in and just click moves. You don't want to U-turn and swap out and lose the boost. So kind of, you could U-turn in and out until you're trying to get a Blunder Policy and just use the rest of your moves, but the best play is probably just to drop U-turn on that set, I'm gonna be honest. So just keep that in mind, people. That's Darumaka. Let's jump over to his cold brother in the north, Darumaka Galar, baby. This thing is pure ice type, okay? So nothing, no fire type here, which has its ups and it has its downs. More weaknesses, yes. Still weak to Stealth Rock, still, yeah, so that's about the same. It has like a little bit better move pool just because it's the same. They copy pasted the move pool and just added moves. They didn't take away anything, so it's the exact same, except for that they added stuff. So you have Ice Punch now, which would be more consistent coverage than, for example, regular Darumakas who just run Rock Slide Superpower. You should run Ice Punch here. You still Flare Blitz, obviously. It's not going to be as strong as regular Darumaka's Flare Blitz, but it has better coverage, like Ice hits more stuff. And it's a better Terra Captain, because what happens then if Darumaka Galar, Terra Ice Punch, and Ice is better coverage? It doesn't have the same high peak as Flare Blitz because it doesn't have the same base power, but Hustle is going to mediate a lot of that. And also, you can Terra Fire with this thing, still get that boosted Flare Blitz. Not as strong as regular Darumaka, but at some point, the damage is just going to be high enough that it doesn't matter. So this thing has a lot of crazy good coverage moves that it can do, and Ice Punch is the main focus around that. Freeze Dry is the one also special move. Again, don't run special moves on this thing, but if you are gonna run one special move on this thing, run Freeze Dry, best ice move in the game. If something is quad weak to ice, or it's something that Darumaka Galar cannot for the life of it get past without hitting it super effective, that like a water type would pretty much stop this thing in the tracks, even though you have good coverage versus it and you hit your Hustle boost, for example. The difference is that Darumaka has Fire Stab from before, so if you Terra on top of it, it can get past things like Slowpoke. That would be the differentiating maker. Darumaka has to click U-turn. Darumaka Galar has to click U-turn instead because it doesn't have the exact, like it's missing that extra 50%. So you're getting close, and still, I'm going to, for the most part, as you can see, suggest the same items, and I'm also gonna suggest, for the most part, the same sets. The only difference, right? You see, it's the same items, it's a lot of the same text. The only difference is that it has more viable Terra types, in my opinion, because it has a lot of fire moves going for it, like as a different typing than fire. Terra Fire becomes really good for it. On top of having Terra Ice, so I think it has more consistent Terra options. But also the fact that this thing just absolutely needs Ice Punch to work really good, and regular Darumaka does not get that. So that's the main differentiator. Flare Blitz Ice Punch is going to be your 1-2 combo, right? It's going to be your bread and butter, so to speak. Like, instead of just Flare Blitz, you're going to have to run Ice Punch, which is obviously a lot better than all of the other coverage that it gets, like Rock Slide and Superpower. You're just going to have to, like, for example, if it was regular Darumaka, you would use Superpower and Rock Slide, for example. Here you always run one Ice Punch over one of them. That's like the main difference. Sub-Salic Berry at +6 is still just as crazy, and then you can run Ice Punch, Fire Punch for that. You don't have to run Facade, you don't have to run stuff like that. Like, you get Ice Punch, Fire Punch, and the coverage in that is insanely crazy. Maybe Water types like can stop it, but you just have so much more room to just play with this thing. Like, this thing spreads, it doesn't have the same peak, but it spreads itself wider than regular Darumaka, which is a really good thing to have. You would probably think that having a less higher peak and more weaknesses is going to make Darumaka worse than regular Darumaka. But as we approach the final rating for both the Darumakas, spoiler alert, it's the same, because they have different utility. One is more damage oriented, one is more coverage oriented. They still have amazing, like, the offensive portfolio for Darumaka Galar is a lot better than regular Darumaka. So it's going to hit super effective a lot more often, for example, while Darumaka has to still click the same move and do damage on resist, which is where you're going to mediate the 50% boost from stab. So it's going to end up about the same. So the final rating for both of these, I don't know what they are actually, but they look like bulky poopy monkeys. So I'm going to call them bulky poopy monkeys. The final rating is A-, which is amazing. These things never get drafted. So I'm so happy. Shoutouts to Hakan and the SOS, who just scooped up Darumaka Galar. Me, myself, scooped up Darumaka Galar in a previous league some years ago, too, in the APA. Because I mismanaged my points and I saw wrong on the tier list. So I had a lot more points left over, so I got it. Please consider drafting these, man. They never see the light of day. Darumaka Galar doesn't even have a set on Smogon. Please, man, the damage output, the offensive portfolio, the offensive utility, the physically offensive utility is really good for its typing. If you need an ice type that can get past a lot of steel types, then draft Darumaka Galar. If you need a fire type that are able to 1 or 2 to 3 hit KO bulky water type, go Darumaka. Gives you great momentum, gives you great damage, and gives you everything that you want and that you need, man. So please do that, man. Please do it. So the final rating is A-, 10 out of 14. Some leagues run it higher, some leagues value it more, some leagues value it a lot less. I saw Smogon recently put them 8 out of 14. I think that's crazy. We ourselves put it at 11 out of 14 just because we really see the value in it. Might have to go like 10 out of 14 to, I think that's more balanced for it. So that's the final rating. Comment who you want to see next for the next episode of Swirlix. And thank you guys so much for watching this episode. This has been your boy Soulblaze. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care of yourselves, take care of your families, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace!